welcome to the Game Line, Wales Online's daily rugby debate show. I'm your host, Ben James, and the special guests, well, they keep on coming. Today we're joined by Geraint John, WRU Community Director, and of course Simon Thomas, as always.
Another man I go back a long way with, let me tell you.
Good or bad?
All good, all good.
And I'm sure we'll get into that in a little bit, but let's start with the breaking news of the day. Wales have named their team to face England. It's been a busy day, hasn't it, Simon?
There's plenty to talk about. I mean, 4 changes. So much of this team selection was based around who was going to be fit, really. We knew certain people weren't, but there's obviously been issues with others. But in the end, the people who've come in, Josh Navidi come back in, Liam Williams back in, both after, lengthy layoffs. So, fingers crossed that their match fitness is up to speed. Change of scrum half, which has been either way, really, with Gareth Davis and sort of Thomas Williams there. And I suppose if you look as well in the back division with Liam Williams at coming on the wing, there was a necessity for change there because Josh Adams had the injury. And the other change, which we hadn't really seen coming, was Rob Evans coming in. It's an incredible year for Rob, really, isn't it? He was kind of, I think he started 4 of the Grand Slam games last year, then missed out on the World Cup and saw 3 people going ahead of him in the pecking order, and bit by bit he's got back up there. So you're pleased for Rob. I think there's an injury to Wyn Jones. There's a bit of an injury with Faletau, but maybe Navidi would have come in. Listen, there's loads of talking points, but it's an experienced side. I think it's probably a side where they've gone for a little bit more contestability at the breakdown. But have you enjoyed the tournament so far, Geraint?
I enjoy any rugby game, if I'm honest. I mean, you know that. But I think I have in terms of, I think everybody's interested in terms of, one, the new coaching setup, what they're going to bring to the actual onto the table in terms of the way that they're playing. I think we've been really lucky. I thought the game against France, I thought was a really good game in terms of, if you were a general spectator watching the game, I think you would have enjoyed that. There was so much drama in there, so much sort of tight calls, but also I thought we were so close to actually creating more opportunities to score tries, and I think we forget about that because we always look at the end results, and that's typical of us, and we always look at what we could have done. But I thought there was a lot of pluses in terms of that in that performance, and as you said, looking forward to this weekend and the other teams. You look at France. Fortunate in terms of my old, position before that. We may be talking about that later. Seeing those young French players coming through the system has been pleasing to actually watch them in the last 2 World Cups, winning the World Cups, and those young players. I think they could be on a little bit of a crest of a real good side there. But I think with regards to what we're doing, we also forget about the new players that have come into the team as well. So I have enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to this weekend as well. And as you said, it's sort of. They've made the selection, and again with some of the selection there, sort of people have that interesting talking point in terms of have they had enough match experience. But they're quality players. We know that they're quality players. We know Josh and Liam are really quality players, and it's nice that probably Wayne had the option to be able to select them, which is good.
And briefly, in your role position in number 10, Daniel Bigger is playing. Is Dan fit? Is he really fit?
Well, Stephen, they wouldn't pick him. No, you wouldn't pick a player unless you know that they're gonna play. And I'm not sure if they play mind games with Eddie, although Eddie does play mind games with everybody else. But Dan is a quality player, and I think everybody in Wales would love to see him on the field. And hopefully, everything's fine, and we know what type of performance
he's got. Incredible powers of recovery. Fair play to the lad.
Indeed, he has. We've got a host of questions to work our way through, and I'm sure it'll take some time. So let's crack on then. I guess we'll start talking about your current role and what that job involves.
Right.
I'm on the clock.
It's on the clock. But current role, community director. So it has the title, pretty broad title in terms of that. But it's look after the game, and I say to people, what is your role in terms of below the regional rugby? So anything below professional rugby. So we have 300 clubs. So the game itself, the whole community game, the whole pathway program, minis, juniors, all the way through the senior game, which includes your first 15, your national leagues, the competition side, the actual second 15 rugby, youth rugby. Then you have the schools and colleges, part of that as well. The primary project that we have women's and girls, referees, coaches, and also the people that are involved in the game as well. We sometimes forget about, how do we actually hopefully have a quality product that helps to bring more supporters in. We can't hide from the fact that is really, really important to us. and also in terms of everything that goes with it, in terms of all the staffing. We have a large number of hub officers out there. We have a large number of teachers and coaches that are out there. You know, we've over got 4,000 coaches out there right in the community game, which is quite a large number. Over 1,000 referees out there in the community game. And for the very first time now, we're starting to actually look at how's our game going. Is it increasing, decreasing in numbers? First time we've ever been able to do that in terms of actually quantify the actual number of people that we have in there. But this is the first year we've been able to do that, so we'll be able to start looking at increases and decreases. But the simple role of the job is actually to make it a quality product, to support the people that are out there, support the playing side of out there, support the clubs, which is really vitally important, to actually hopefully give other alternative offerings as well. It's, you know, we talk about the 15-a-side core game, but the game has changed as well. We have so many other offerings for people. We've got to show that rugby is a game for everybody. You know, walking rugby is growing like anything right now for maybe people our age, Simon. That's
hobbling rugby,
right? But it's as I said, it's everything that's below, as I call it, professional rugby and regional rugby, and it's the aim is actually look at it growing. And right now, sorry if I'm just going to say this, right now is that we're in a situation right now. You know, we've got a new strategy we're going to launch later on this year, and hopefully that'll help and give a real clear understanding for people out there of what we're trying to do in the community game, which I think will be important.
You said about everything below the professional game. The top tier of that, if you like, is the Premiership.
Yeah.
Now, whenever we do these, we had Gareth Davis on before, we've got you in now. Inevitably, there's a lot of questions about the Premiership. Yeah. I'll give a couple of them here, and Ben's got a couple as well. Ryan Jones, not that Ryan Jones, says, is a 12-team Premiership here to stay, or will the tinkering stick be out again? And Roger Ayres as well says, can I get Geraint's thinking on why the union have reduced the Premiership funding are doing so at the moment? So maybe generally about the Premiership, how do you see it?
I enjoy the Premiership, so let's make sure that's clear to start off with. It's a quality product. It's the top end of our club game, and it's, you know, the aim of it right now. So what is the best club side out there in Wales? You know, Cardiff are leading at the moment. Is it going to be Cardiff at the end of the year? You know, we've had Merthyr leading over the last couple of years to find the top club game. In terms of tinkering, that often comes back to me in terms of saying, why do you keep tinkering? Well, that was something that always used to happen, and I think years ago, and talking about years ago, over 2017, a decision was made of what the next steps were for the Premiership. Since then, there hasn't been any tinkering. Tinkering is to get it to where it is now, and we all agreed in 2017 on where we wanted it to go. And we've had ring fencing, we had playing east, playing west, we played some home, some away. So I think it's been pretty much stated that we did a unbelievable consultation process.
You asked me along.
I did.
You must be
did.
Desperate.
But in terms of that, it's like anything. No matter what decision you make, and I'm very conscious of this. No matter what decision you make, you're going to get some people like it, some people don't like it. I always thought, having been away, came back, that if we had a 75-25% ratio, we'd be actually okay. I think sometimes in Welsh rugby, if we get to 60-40, we're actually okay. But that's the way it is. Is 12 teams here to stay? Yes. Have we got promotion and relegation? Yes. Jeopardy. That's what the consultation process said.
And it'll be one up, one down.
One up, one down.
No playoffs.
We've always said that. So
definitely.
100%.
Right.
But I could have said that 3 years ago, but people didn't believe it 3 years ago. So we said to people, this is how we're going to do it.
Obviously, there's a lot of upset over Pontypool last year.
And I speak to Pontypool on a regular basis. They knew the situation where we were going to go. Last year the question was, why didn't we relegate 5 and put one up? Which is what it would have been. And the decision that was made through there was a working group. There was a lot of consultation. A lot of people have met, Premiership, Championship players, supporters, coaches, administrators, and everything like that to look at where we needed to go. And that we felt this was the best way. We need jeopardy. I think it's really good for the game. If you're winning a league and you want to, and you have aspirations, Pontypool have aspirations. They deserve to go up. Will Pontypool go up this year? I don't know, because there's Bargoed in there who have done well. There's Bedwas in there as well, who are playing well as well. So there's a lot of things. But will it be 12 right now? Yes, it is. Yeah,
the guy you would have played against, I know, Gareth Evans, former Wales and Lions winger. He's asked a very general question. You talked about what the structure will be, but I think he's nailed, perhaps in simple terms, what the key question is. Gareth says, what is the purpose of the Welsh Premiership?
Purpose of the Welsh Premiership is to find the best club in Wales.
And is that it? I ask that because people will always raise the development of players for the regional game?
There's always going to be, if you look at where we are in Wales, and perhaps, I don't know, in my simplistic mode, a youngster this Saturday, right, where does he go and play his rugby? If he doesn't get selected for his regional team this Saturday, where does he play?
Yeah.
We want him to play club rugby, the best. So we've always said that. We've never hidden that. That's where he should play. So so in terms of the best club rugby, what was happening that in some of the club rugby, there were so many players going back and forth from Premiership to region. At one stage, one club had over 80 players played for their Premiership team.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a supporter and you go to that Premiership club game, you don't know who's going to be on the field, who's not, because there's players flitting in and out. So we didn't want that. We wanted some sort of stability. So that's what we tried to work to. We've stated, 3 years ago that we want the Premiership clubs to have a very, very close relationship with the regions. That is important because we want our youngsters to play. We don't want youngsters to be sitting on the bench. We don't want youngsters not playing. We want people in Wales to see the best players as we possibly can. And if it includes a regional player, it includes a regional player. If it includes a young academy player, it includes a young academy player. So we've always said that. We never said, but the aim of it is still to have the best club team there. With regards to the Premiership as well, people forget that we meet the Premiership every month. So there is, people say, oh, why do you treat them maybe slightly different to other club teams, club programs? They're on television every week or nearly every week. So we want to make sure that the product that people go to watch and the product that they see on television is a top product. The finance part, we thought it was best to put the finance part in terms of where do we actually strategically place it. In terms of quality coaching and getting quality coaching and support the coaching and putting the money towards that. We felt because by having quality coaching is telling us players feel that coaching is really, really important. And if they have quality coaching, they tend to be more interested in being at that particular. And we knew that the young players were going to be there. So but it's not just about the young players. If I'm a player or a player in mid-30s or early 30s, and there's a quality player, they may not be quite good enough for the regional. Why can't they play the best possible standard they can play? And if the best possible standard to play is top-end club rugby and it's a Premiership level, then let's try and make sure it's ready for that. As an example, if you look at Dave Head from Ebbw Vale, fantastic player, fantastic stalwart for Ebbw Vale, took him to winning the league. He was a top-end Premiership player, so there must be an avenue for players like him to play in a local club at the top level that they can play. Not worried then about regional elements.
Just lastly from me on that, because you've talked about that's fine, you explained the importance of the Premiership there. You've also got this regional A-team system which operates for like 8 weeks at the start of the year. So you'll have young regional academy players will play in that. And then they will go into either playing for the region or they'll get a club team game. Now, is that the way it's going to stay? Are you going to stick with the regional A teams? Might you expand them? Or are you happy with the mix that you've got in the moment?
I think right now there's a conversation happening. Right now, look at, there's a seasonal repositioning happening, So where does, the pro game go moving forward? When does that start? We're in conversations with, obviously, the Premiership, as I said, each month. So the aim is over the next few weeks, we'll get us together to look at when we actually put a fixture list together. It won't be, all right, we'll do the Premiership over here, we'll do the regional rugby over here, we'll do that. Let's make sure we collate it, do it together.
Integrate it.
And make sure the Premiership will have, as I said, we meet each month. There's a group of 5 or 6 people from the Premiership, meet with myself, with Rob Butcher, who chairs the community board. Also now we meet with Ben Rose. Ben Rose, in terms of when we're going back to the financial part, we want to try and support them commercially and improve them. So Ben Rose is in that particular role right now. We had a great meeting on Tuesday night where we started discussing about commercial opportunities for the Premiership.
Commercial officer for the Premiership.
Just for the Premiership. And that's something we've always said, again, going back, this is what we wanted to do to support them. How do we increase money, but also how do we also in terms of a cost perspective, are there ways that we actually reduce all our costs by working together? And then obviously coming up soon in April, we've got the cross-border competition as well. So we've tried to put in place what we said we were going to do. we've also said we weren't going to tinker with anything for the next 3 or 4 years because we agreed that's where we're going to go. It's interesting, the 3 years comes up at the end of next year. So we'll constantly then go, okay, what are the next steps? But in going back to the fixture list, we've got to make sure that we work together. So myself, Ryan, the performance staff, and also the Premiership, we'll work together to look at what is right for the fixture list moving forward.
Just done with the Premiership. What about other issues there, Ben, coming up?
I guess we move on to the Championship then, don't we? Got a question here from Solivera Rugby Club. Asking why do the WRU feel the need to relegate 4 teams every year from the Championship when sides don't get the chance to maybe...
People clearly care about these things, don't they?
to maybe find their feet at that tough level is what the question is.
It's a tough question because obviously we're looking at what the decision was made that it should be a certain number of teams at each level. And when you have a certain number of teams at each level, you're going to have that promotion relegation, maybe too many teams going down. And it's an open discussion, and as you said, people care, and that's why, one, you enjoy the job. Two, we're all about the same. We care about the people that are out there, and that's why I go out on a Saturday sometimes asking where to go, because it's important to get their views and thoughts when you're out there. In terms of that, I sympathise with us, Silvera, in terms of where we're going to go. It's again, part of this 3-year situation we're in, and we're actually in a situation we will look at the Championship moving forward, and that keeps coming back to us. And again, it's about, we don't want to tinker for the sake of tinkering either. That's important because people want a bit of stability, and we have been criticised in the past. You keep making changes every single year. Supporters don't know what's happening. Players don't know what's happening. Coaches, administrators, how do they financially plan? How do they get themselves organised? How do they become, if you want financially stable clubs moving forward, we've got to get some form of where there's a simple sort of, it's a solution, but also making sure that over the years they know exactly from one season to the other what is happening. So I sympathise with them. It's a decision that was made, and then obviously we're going to look at where we're going moving forward.
We've got another former player, Dai Llewellyn. You play against Dai?
I remember Dai Llewellyn, scrum half.
Former Wales scrum half. He says the WRU should be employing ex-players to go around schools to grow the game like they do in New Zealand. Thoughts, please?
Thoughts. Excellent. It's actually interesting when he talks about like they do in New Zealand. It's sort of one of the things people forget about is that we talk about numbers playing, the community game. We have a real strong connection with a lot of other countries. We come together as a group in terms of, we call it the 4 nations, start of ourselves, England, Scotland, Ireland. We meet regularly because we're all in a similar position. We're all having, what they call it, problems. We're all trying to work out what the solutions are. We're looking in terms of how do we actually... So, funny enough, I'll get to this as well at the same time. But when you said it like they do in New Zealand, so it's been interesting. New Zealand were due next week over here with us and talk to us, and we were invited to go to their conference last month. But unfortunately, we couldn't go because of something else happening later on this month. But one of the things, they're so intrigued about what we're doing. They feel that we're way ahead of them in terms of some of the stuff in the community game. So it's interesting. It is interesting because people say to me, "Oh, they're always coming here and taking ideas. We're always taking ideas off them." So I said, "Well, they want to know about our game on approach. They want to know how we're doing about. We've done a Club of the Future strategy, and we've been doing a lot of workshops with the clubs. So we've been looking at that in terms of our hub program. So they're intrigued about our hub program. So, for example, a little bit what Dai's asking there, said, going around the schools. We have 87 hubs officers out there at the moment.
What kind of people would they be generally?
So those generally people, they can vary their ages. So if Dai wants to apply, he can apply. So any player can apply.
Yeah.
So there's an open application process. We go through a rigorous interview. They're in a school. Their job, basically, the school is actually, yes, they link up with their secondary school. They link up with their primary sectors. The role is actually how to engage with those players, to link up with local clubs. There's going to be criticism. I can see people out there now saying, I am going to hub officer. But we've only got a certain amount of hub officers. Not all schools take on board a hub officer because we pay a certain amount and the school have to pay the other amount.
Oh, I see.
So it's 50-50.
Oh, right.
So we don't pay the full salary. So we have to work with education establishments. So one of the things we're doing at the moment as part of our strategy is we've taken hub officers into areas that don't have much rugby to try and grow it.
That's what kind of places you talk?
So you can go into so in the Rumney Valley. Right. So there wasn't much rugby happening in that area. Have a hub officer. They played a game last year in the school they hadn't played for over about 10 years.
Oh, that's good.
Right. So we get in numbers to play. Now we obviously want to transfer them into clubs as well, which is important to grow the numbers there. But also in terms of this with the hubs, this is a Hub 2 programme, but we'll go into a Hub 3 programme moving forward. So we'll look at, do we continue doing it the same way? We'll review it next year. Can we increase it? That's what we're going to look at in terms of the financial part and try and support more Hub officers. We've got a new primary school programme as well to get into the curriculum. So it's not just rugby outside the classroom, but rugby in the classroom. So going back to that point there, should we employ ex-players? Yeah, if there's ex-players out there that want to have a Hub officer role, of course they can. Right? But there is a process, right? And we firmly believe that the process in terms of making sure that, they can coach, they can educate, they're part of the school, so the school are involved in the interview process, we're involved in the interview process, and the region is involved in the interview process as well to do it. So as I said, we've got 87 this year out there at the moment, and they, the women's, girls, growth, the boys game, linking in with clubs. So there's certain things that they have to do as well, and work within their school. So can it improve? Yes, it can improve, and that's what we'll try and do next year. So
that's great.
I'll tell Di to give me a ring.
Yeah, good. A couple of things to round up. And we have a topical issues here with, the flooded clubs. We've all seen it, haven't we, with the flooded clubs? Yeah. We talked about the money the union was going to put in, in terms of helping. We saw the pictures, there's some awful scenes. Can you give us a bit of an update of what you've been able to do to help those clubs?
I've got to say, part of the department, so in terms of, again, the community department, so it's not just about on the field, off the field. So part of the community department, which is falls on myself, there's a club development department led by Chris Monroe and his department. So their role is basically looking at clubs in terms of the facilities, looking at facilities grants, working with clubs and making sure that the fields, the pitches are correct, making sure how we get loans that we can work with, working with local partners, working with also local authorities. So Chris and his department have spent probably since, unfortunately, when Storm Dennis arrived. Yeah. I think it was Storm Dennis then.
Was it Kiara or so, two of them, wasn't it, really?
That they've gone out there, they've gone and met all the clubs. We've looked at a set criteria, so we've got an application process to actually where the fund will go. We're in the process of distributing funds, but they've been out there to look at, what has happened in terms of facilities, what's clubhouses, what are the next steps that they should do. Are they insured? Are they not insured? What's happened with their fields? We've had experts in there to look at pitches in terms of making sure that can they play, can't they play. Clubs have been fantastic in this, and this has been, it shows what rugby's all about. Probably, we love rugby. That it's a major community. It brings people. It's brought people together, and I think moving forward, and part of our strategy moving forward, and looking at what the communities are. Rugby's a little bit unique. I think it's different. We have bricks and mortar, so we have buildings. A lot of other sports don't have the building. We can actually be a major hub for a lot of communities, and it is. And it's not about just the playing side. If clubs in the future, and what we've talked about, if we can get other sports involved in it, it can help. I think help the mental health and the well-being of a lot of people out there as well. Getting people gathered in a place. Yes, they can watch a game, but there's other things that they can do at a particular club. But when you looked at this in terms of the flooded party, so I'll give an example of Risca Rugby Club. Risca Rugby Club flooded. The people in Risca Rugby Club were there in so many numbers, from young 5-year-olds, right up old people, cleaning, making it stuff. But also they had too many people helping them. So they actually went and helped Cross Keys.
That's good.
But that's what rugby's all about.
We saw the Dragons players, and
Dragons
Dean
players
Ryan
went there.
Turned up. Yeah.
So our staff have been out there. We've had everybody out there. But that's what it's about. So in terms of that, so Chris and his staff have gone around all the clubs. We've got a criteria laid out now. We'll start giving out financial support to those clubs to help them to get their clubs back on track and playing. So yes, obviously some clubs were hit really, really hard. You go to some clubs and, if you look at Blackwood, all the wall had broken, everything's on the field there, but how do we actually get it? But everybody's sort of gathered around each other to help and support, and I think that's what rugby's all about, and that's what, in terms of moving forward, getting the community spirit behind it, and I think sort of we don't want to lose that. We got to sort of, people say community rugby's dying, grassroots rugby's dying. There's a lot of.
Well, is it?
I
you keep hearing it, don't you?
You always hear it in this sort of, but if you went to every single other country would say exactly the same. There
was a story in New Zealand Herald, I think, this morning saying that very thing. Which...
and people say it's just a Welsh thing. Oh, Welsh rugby's dying. But I go, this week we'll have over 10,000 girls taking up rugby. right? Over 10,000 playing rookie rugby. On March the 30th week, we'll have 18,000 youngsters playing sevens in Pontcanna up the road. Now, they're big numbers.
Dying, is it?
So that to me tells me it's not dying. There's over 40 odd schools will go to Rosslyn Park sevens. So it's, to me...
I don't know about it, but what I keep getting asked is, like, participation numbers are down. Now, I know you say that it's difficult to quantify because you've got a new system in place, but is your general impression that participation numbers are down?
I wouldn't say... No.
Right.
I firmly don't believe that. I'll have 50% of people out there now will tell me he's wrong. But there's so much good going on. And we talk about, yes, we talk about the 15-a-side game playing on Saturday. Do we have as many people playing it? We don't know because we haven't had the right numbers. We've got to look at that carefully. Do we have a large number of players playing from 18 down? 100% yes. Do we have more offerings for people to play? 100% yes. Do we now have to look at how do we keep those players playing for the first 15s and the second 15s? So we've done a new program for second 15 rugby this year. Right, we've got second 15 national conferences. We've got second 15 district conferences. Never had that before. So we're putting a lot of effort in second 15 rugby because we want to try and get clubs to more. Are the numbers huge? No, they're not. But we're trying to do something about it. We've gone through Youth Rugby Rising as an initiative. It's all over social media. We've had more completions of youth games this season and last season than we've ever had before. Well, I'm saying ever had before. In what I'm recorded right now. Yeah. So we're putting certain things in terms of emphasis of where we got to go. So again, this will fall in terms of hopefully when we look at the strategy moving forward. If you look at the strategy moving forward, if you look at, to me, there's 4 key areas. The playing side, we want more numbers playing. We can't hide that. We want to do that. So we've got to make our competition structure's got to be right. Is it right? So that's questions. If you go to a rugby club on a Saturday, some people will say they don't want to travel more than an hour down the road to play a game of rugby. They want to be 45 minutes because people work and they want to play a game. So is our competition right for that? So we've got to think, is it right for that moving forward? So we got the playing side. We get quality coaching, quality referee and quality support. That'll get the product right on the field. If we get the product right on the field, hopefully we support the people. There's a lot of people in clubs. We've got to support them in terms of, we've got a mass number of volunteers. We've got to help them. The clubhouses, when you look at the places that people actually go to, there's some great clubhouses and there's some great sort of stories. What we don't do in Wales, we've been doing this part of this strategy moving forward, and hopefully you'll laugh at this, it's typical Welsh, but we don't share. We don't share. There's some unbelievable great initiatives going on in different clubs around Wales. We could actually show that. And actually another club will go, oh, that's a great idea. I'll take that on board. So I think we've got to work a little bit closer together. We're a little bit tribalism in Wales. We like to look after ourselves, but that's the way we are. But I think we've got to show that. And I think sort of then we've got the other formats. If you look at all the formats that we do in mixed ability, disability rugby, walking rugby, wheelchair rugby, sevens, touch, tag, there's a huge amount actually going on. So in terms of what's happening, there's a lot happening. People then tend to look at, what about the 15-a-side core game that's happening there? That'll be part of a major new emphasis for us moving forward because we want to make sure that part of the game, because that is the game, that's the game that I know in terms of, it's the 15-a-side core game. We've grown a lot of the other alternatives. We've got a large number of youngsters playing. How do we now retain them? We'll put a lot of emphasis on that, and how can we actually support the clubs to actually make sure that we retain them as well? So are they decreasing? I can't tell you exactly, but I know now how many are playing rugby. If you can ask me in 2 years' time or 3 years' time, we'll be able to now officially make an actual comparisons each year, which we haven't been able to do.
We'll have you back in.
You are.
I did have the audit on the list, but I think that would take another 25 minutes. But unless you can wrap it up in a minute. Simple terms, as we understand it, end of this month is going to be an EGM, which is being triggered by 34 clubs. Yeah. Who have issues over the audit, which as I understand is the points-based system, deciding the grants and the funding. Very briefly, why has this happened again?
It's briefly. Good question. I can't answer briefly because I get excited about everything I do, but it's sort of, it's whether you call it audit, I call it a development grant because the audit is a grant, an amount of money that the Welsh Rugby Union give to clubs for developing the game. Now, a new audit was put together so I can't do it briefly, sorry. There was a new audit put together. And one of the things of when the actual results of the new audit, we had, other problems throughout the year in terms of, the system broke down, but we all fixed that. Anyway, when the audit came in, there was a large discrepancy of what clubs were getting. Right. So we wanted to make sure that no clubs were really suffering, right? So there was a decision made that went to the board, decision made to actually, okay, for this season alone, let's make sure, and we will do a review.
Right.
So we're doing the review at that. And unfortunately, a decision has been made by the clubs, and clubs are rightly to do this. That's their prerogative. They can call an EGM. They want to go back to the old one, so they want to go back to the old money that they were given. Now, no matter when
they want the status quo.
Status quo on the previous one, but still continue the review.
Right.
But like anything, you'll always have clubs going up. You'll have clubs going down. That happens every single. So over the last 6 years, when you look at the trends. There's no club has the same. It always there's trends of up and down.
So, if all the clubs who've triggered the EGM lost out, is that what we're saying?
No, some of them have gained.
Oh.
Some of them lost. If the motion goes through, there'll be substantial losses for clubs as well. So nobody's going to win or lose. It's hopefully. That's why personally I think it's right to have the working group. And we had a meeting on Tuesday night with the working group. It's interesting the person who's brought the motion on is in the working group, which is quite funny. But but we're doing that working group anyway, and we'll get through this bump on the road, as I call it. But the aim is that we do have an amount of finance, and we do recognise it's for positive development to support the clubs.
The figure I saw was 1.8 million is what you're talking about, out of like the 2.8 that goes in total to the clubs. Now I know that looking at the figures, we've talked to the union about this before, I think it's about 11.8 million you put into the community game at the moment. So just to simplify for the viewers and then read it, about a certain amount of that goes on core grants for the clubs, and then I guess all the other things you've talked about today, like the development office and all those kind of things, that's where the rest of it goes. So do you want more money?
We'll always want more money, don't you? Because the thing is, but as long as it goes into the right places to develop.
Because I asked that because of the Six Nations is up in the air. Everyone's talking about more money, CVC. I mean, you could always spend it, could you? You could always spend it. I think hopefully the new strategy and the way forward, hopefully you can actually drive not. If there's new finance that comes in, will help to drive the community game. And what we want in the community game is we want more players, we want to support the people, we want the clubs to thrive, and we want to do as much as we can to promote people to play. That's what we're about, isn't it? I'm doing the newsread a bit now. That means that's the end. That's the end. I'm sorry you haven't much to say today, Ben, have you?
Sorry, Ben.
Ideal job.
Thank you.
No, good. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Massive thank you for coming on. I think that was
comprehensive.
As good an effort at answering a complicated question briefly as we've ever seen on this show.
Never brief.
Yeah, as I say, massive thank you for Geraint coming on, and we'll be back same time, same place tomorrow.